Hi everybody, it's Christian. Welcome back to my channel. Thanks for coming in. Alright, as you all know, I've been seriously lifting weights for about 3 years now. I've been seriously weight training for about 3 years, and I made some decent progress. So, in my 3 years of training, I have found four ways that rookies kill their gains. Alright? There's lots of ways you can kill gains in the weight room, but these are the four that stand out to me. So, the first way that you kill gains is by not training to failure. I'll say it again, just to reiterate this. The number one way you kill gains is not training to failure. Training to failure is the idea that you lift the weight until you can't lift the weight anymore, alright? You keep on going until you can't do another rep with good form. That's training to failure, alright? All the guys who make gains in the weight room, 99.9% of them train to failure, alright? If you want to grow muscle, you must train to failure. If you are not trained to failure on most exercises, then you are not training hard enough and you will not grow muscle. Alright? So, for most exercises, if you want to get stronger, you must train to failure. I've been training to failure for about 3 years, almost my entire lifting career, and I've made excellent gains. And it's not just me. I've seen lots of guys on forums, on videos and whatnot, who say they made excellent gains when they trained to failure. So, my experience and others' experience shows that you need to train to failure to build muscle in the real world. Now, many people make bogus excuses to not train to failure, and I did a video on that, so I'm not going to go into too much detail here. But one excuse people give to not go to failure is that on compound movements, more specifically bench press, deadlift, and squat, on compound movements, going to failure is dangerous, and therefore you shouldn't do it on all exercises. My counter argument to that is, for the compound movements specifically, I in fact believe you should not train to failure on those. If you are going to, at least have a spotter or safety bars. So, for the compound movements in general, don't go to failure, or if you're going to go to failure, at least get safety bars and do it in a way that's safe. With that being said, however, for 99% of exercises, it is not dangerous to go to failure. And because of that, for most exercises, you should go to failure if you want to grow muscle. So that argument doesn't hold up. Another argument that people give for not training to failure is that you lose form. That is frankly bullshit if you actually know what you're doing. I see plenty of guys in the weight room who have good form even when they're going to failure. And I don't mean to toot my horn, but for me, I do make a conscious effort to use good form when I'm training to failure. And for that matter, most pro athletes, powerlifters, football players, track athletes, discus throwers, jumpers, what have you, all of them train to failure and keep good form. Alright, there are lots of people who keep good form when training to failure. So, the idea that you inherently lose form is a bullshit excuse to not train to failure, plain and simple. And I'll say this. If somebody is so stupid, he or she cannot keep good form when going to failure, that person is probably too stupid to do anything, and you shouldn't listen to him or her. Just an idea. So, the number one way to kill gains is not train to failure. So simply put, train to failure. Go to failure for 99% of your lifts. So, bench press, squat, deadlift, for those, don't go to failure unless you have a spotter or safety bars. But for everything else, just go to failure. Okay, so that's number one. The number two way to kill gains, this is kind of related to the first one, is shitty form and technique. Alright? Or rather, inconsistent form and technique. Alright? Another way to kill gains is to use inconsistent technique. Now, I don't advise using hyper strict form. Hyper strict form kills gains as well, but But, you still need consistent form, okay? So, when you're in the weight room and say you're doing a triceps pull down, just pretend I got a cable machine here, and you're doing a triceps pull down, you want to keep your form generally consistent when you're doing it. If you kind of cheat the weight down, then it becomes a question of, wait, did I actually get stronger? Or did I fake it because I cheated the weight down? Now you don't know. So, to track progressive overload, you have to be consistent in your form. So, the second way to kill gains is inconsistent technique. So, if you want to make gains, have consistent technique. Now, it does not need to be hyper strict form. I don't advise hyper strict form. When you're getting to or close to failure, some fork breakdown is permissible. Nonetheless, while some fork breakdown is okay, extremely loose form and inconsistent form is not. So, have mostly strict form when you're doing your exercises. So, number 2, using inconsistent form. So, the way to solve that is use consistent form, okay? So, to be more consistent in your lifts, use consistent form, and progressive overload will be better and more consistent. So, number 2, you have to use consistent form. The third way to kill gains is not eating enough food. There's a certain influencer named Greg Doucette who says that you can maintain your way into a good physique. Well, Greg Doucette can go screw himself because he's wrong. Maintaining does not work. What works is bulking. Bulking is when you eat in a calorie surplus to build muscle. All right? Here's how you know you're in a calorie surplus. Take your body weight, multiply that by about 15. That will get you pretty close to your maintenance. It's not perfectly exact, but it's pretty close. Now, take your maintenance weight and then add about 300 to about 800 calories above that. That should get you within a calorie surplus to help you build muscle. All right? I can tell you from my experience and others' experience that when you gain, you don't build muscle. At least not very well. If you want to gain muscle quickly, you should eat in a calorie surplus. Put another way, if you want to build muscle, eat more food. Eat a lot of food to build muscle. Now, one excuse people give to not eat in a calorie surplus is that you'll get fat if you eat too much. I will say this. There have been plenty of times where I ate a shitload of food and I ate a big calorie surplus, but I didn't get that fat because I was training hard. That's the reason. Even if you eat a really high calorie surplus, you're not going to get fat if you train hard. Put another way, if you actually train to failure, you're not going to get fat when you eat a calorie surplus. The only time you ever get fat on a calorie surplus is either 1, you're not training hard, or 2, you're eating a stupid high calorie surplus. And by stupid high, I mean like 1,000 calories or more every day, which is actually kind of hard to do. Okay? So, for all of you saying, am I going to get fat if I eat a whole lot of food, if I bulk up? Am I going to get fat if I bulk? The answer is, honestly, no. All right? No, you are not going to get fat if you bulk, if you train to failure, and if you eat in a calorie surplus that's not stupid high. And you have to eat a stupidly high amount of food to get to where it's stupid high. All right? So if your calorie surplus is like, I'd say 800 to about 1,200 every day, that's probably the highest you can go without getting horribly fat. But even then, you can cut that off pretty quickly at the end of your bulk. So even then, having a high calorie surplus probably isn't the end of the world because you can cut that off pretty quickly, relatively speaking. So number 3, the third stupid way to kill gains is to gain. That is, not eating enough food. So if you want to make gains, eat a shitload of food. Sorry, bulk up, eat a whole lot of food, and you will get big and strong. The fourth and final way people kill gains is not self-experimenting. I will repeat that. People kill gains when they don't self-experiment. What I mean by this is that when you're in the weight room, you won't get it right the first time. In fact, you might not get it right a lot of the time. All right? Some guys will do a mistake where they'll pigeonhole themselves for a certain exercise, training technique, or what have you, and they'll stick with it even when it blatantly doesn't work. There's lots of guys who just won't self-experiment even when something's blatantly not working. I've been there myself. There are times in my lifting career where I was doing dumbbell biceps curls. All right? I was doing dumbbell biceps curls early on. Arnold Schwarzenegger did it and he made good gains. So I thought, okay, I'll do dumbbell bicep curls. Dumbbell bicep curls did not work for me. All right? I couldn't progressive overload them. I couldn't get my form consistent, and I just hated doing dumbbell biceps curls. Despite the fact I hated doing it and I couldn't progress it, I kept on doing it for months. Eventually it got to the point where I said, okay, screw this crap, it doesn't work. So I replaced them with cable machine biceps curls. Guess what happened? The cable machine biceps curls blew up my biceps. All right, I wasted months of my training career on an exercise that flat out didn't work for me. I would have made better biceps gains if I did the cable machine biceps curls earlier. Instead, I wasted time because I was not willing to experiment with a new exercise. And I think that goes for a lot of lifters. If there's an exercise that does not work for you, then don't do the exercise. If there's an exercise that does not work, switch it out with another exercise and do that one instead. If, say, you're doing a dumbbell bicep curl and it doesn't work, just go to a cable machine biceps curl or a preacher curl or whatever. Replace an exercise with another one if it doesn't work for you. Let's say you're doing a dumbbell bench press and you can't get the form down, you don't like doing it and it doesn't work. Just go to, say, a barbell bench press or a barbell incline bench press or a Smith machine press or what have you. If the exercise doesn't work, experiment and pick a different exercise. Let's say that there's a rep range that doesn't work for you. Just change to another rep range and self-experiment that way. All right? If there is, say, a certain split, push-pull legs, full body, body part split, what have you, if there's a split that does not work for you, self-experiment and pick another shift instead. Or split, rather, sorry. So, be willing to self-experiment, all right? Change exercises if needed. Experiment with different rep ranges if needed. Be willing to self-experiment in order to make gains. All right? So number 4, the 4 stupid way you kill gains is by not self-experimenting. And one last bonus tip before I go. The 5th stupid way to kill gains is not progressive overloading. Get a notebook or a phone or what have you and track your lifts. Write down the exercise you did, the reps, the sets, the weight. Write down every exercise and track how you did for that exercise. Then, after you do that, try to beat the logbook. All right? You need to progressive overload in order to get stronger. If you are not progressive overloading, then you're doing something wrong. In that case, you have to fix whatever is going on. So, the 5th and final bonus tip, if you will, failing to progressive overload kills gains, so please progressive overload. All right, this is Christian. Thank you for watching. I hope you make it into the weight room, and I hope you make those gains. Thanks for watching. Have a good rest of your day, and peace out.